Nice to see everyone. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:33. Up first, we have our consent agenda. We have a set of prior minutes from the April 3rd meeting. We have a number of policies, both first and second read. Any discussion, questions, concerns about consent agenda, policies?
I've got a question on some of the policies.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay. You want it?
Yeah, go for it.
The D13, the policy on electronic communication, how are we keeping an eye on that? Who's going to be responsible for those? I mean, to have a policy like that is great, but that can be a tough one, I would think, to monitor.
Which part of it, Arlene?
The part of student and staff on social media.
We have monitored, we don't go out and look for it, but if things come to our attention, we address it with each individual staff member as it comes up.
So it needs to be reported by someone in order for us to.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, there are exceptions. I mean, if you have a niece and a nephew or,
Yeah.
there's a close family connection
Sure.
to someone, then that's a little different, but we do not want our staff members to be friending and having other people friend them on social media. It just is.
Oh, I agree completely. I think it's a good policy to have, definitely.
Yeah.
It just,
But I will not be monitoring it.
Yeah.
I will respond
Well, that was-
if it's reported to me.
that's my thought, because when I was a staff member, I did catch wind of some of it and just, what do you do to deal with it? The other question is on E4, which is,
The bloodborne pathogens.
yes, bloodborne pathogens. And it's just a wording. When it explains it and who is involved, and it has coaches, and then it says gym. And I'm curious if we really intend it to be gym, as in the room, or we're intending it to be the physical education teachers.
Where do you see that?
Let's see, I'm trying to find it down there. I think it has to do with who has to.
You know which page, Arlene?
Excuse me?
What page?
Do you know which page?
No, I'm looking for it right now.
Is it here where it's talking about the facility, at this facility, the following job classifications are in this category, and it mentions gym? Is it that part, Arlene?
I thought it was in reference to who needed to be in the trainings. Of course, I can't find it right now.
I think for that one, if there's a typo in there with board's permission, maybe Arlene could just show us.
Yep.
And then we could make if it's just a simple correction where it should be.
Yeah.
If it's the location, we'll leave it as gym, maybe we'll say gymnasium, and if it's
Right.
the person, we'll change it to
Yeah.
teacher.
All right, thank you, that's great.
Does that sound okay, Mary?
Yeah, that sounds totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I did find it. Says, at this facility, the following job classifications are in this category: custodians, nurses, coaches, science, family and consumer science, gym, special education, triple E, and trade teachers. So it probably should read physical education.
Physical education. Okay. Oh, I found it.
Found it?
Yep.
Right,
Great.
okay.
That was it?
All right, we'll make that correction. Thanks, Arlene.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the consent agenda? All right, so I'll make a motion then to accept. We'll do that by roll. John,
Yes.
Lisa,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
Arlene,
Yes?
Kat,
I.
and Mary is an aye. All right, great. So as far as the prioritization of the meeting, I spoke with Lynn earlier, and we're gonna move. Lynn, you would like to go right after the spotlight, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great, that works.
I probably will stay for Morgan's as well.
Okay,
I don't think we have a lot this evening.
okay, perfect. That sounds good. So as visitors and public comment, it doesn't look like we have anyone in the virtual realm, eh?
Nope.
And everyone here is part of the spotlight, support for the spotlight? Okay, so no public comment then tonight. Perfect. So then we'll move on to our Montgomery spotlight. Sandy.
Thank you. I am highlighting our music. I'm highlighting our library and our art programs. I feel very, very fortunate with the fact that to have just a .4 position in a school, and these people are here 2 days a week, and the quality of programming that we have here, I just felt it was very important to highlight that tonight. And you know, I think the board knows that Melissa Capizzuto had to take the 6 librarian courses in order to be certified for this position for 2 days a week. So to me, that goes above and beyond for someone to come in and take on, that's dedication. And so she's done so many things to resurrect some things that we've had here and haven't been using, and so I'm really excited. So I'm going to let them present all of these things. And before we're done, we want to make sure that everyone knows about the art show.
Oh, yeah, well, actually, that was the first, one of the first things I was
Then
gonna
I'm
talk
gonna
about.
let you take it away. Melissa Haberman.
Thank you. Actually, this is the second time I've been a spotlight. The first one, you put me on the spot. The first year I started in October, and we were doing it all Zoom. And I was like, oh, and it was with the librarian, too. I would like to thank Mira Garceau and Laurel Trihorn and Viola Capizzuto and her parents, their parents, for coming to the meeting and bringing them, because if it wasn't for them, they wouldn't be here. So we've been doing some really, really fun projects, I think, in the art program, and we're teaching some great skills in both departments. And I would like to actually have them talk a little bit. That's why they're here. I don't want to talk for them. So this is Mira, and she's going to talk about this project that we've been working on for, gosh, how long now? A month? Something like that? Okay.
In this project, we had to choose a famous person. I chose Amelia Earhart, and we had to make stamps and figure out something that represented that person. For Amelia Earhart, she was a pilot, so I chose like wings for like flying.
So that's going to be your background.
Yeah. And you would put it at the background. Then you had to make a picture of the person, and then you would have to cut it out and put it on the background.
So how did you, why are all those lines there? What's that called?
It's called a grid. So like you would look at the picture and
Here, I want to show the picture.
you would look at the picture and find like what grid the part you were drawing is at, and then you put it on the picture to make it more precise in the drawing.
There is something here I could talk about. You want to hold your picture for a second? So we talked about some math.
Yeah, you would have to take a ruler and try and have to draw the grid with like 1 by 1 or however inches you had to do.
Laurel, you want to talk about yours?
And
I can hold the picture if you want to take it apart.
I chose Misty Copeland, and she's a ballerina. And for the background, I did skirts. And yeah, like she was saying, we're doing the grids.
So I'm just going to cut it out, and I'm just going to put it on the, and there's some extra ones she'll probably fill in as well.
Yeah.
What else are we going to be doing? There was another component to this about a famous quote.
Oh yes, and we're going to do a famous quote that Misty Copeland or Amelia Earhart has said.
That'll be part of the project, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're hoping these will be finished before May 10th, aren't we? Yes. Because we have an art show. This is my 3rd annual spring art show down at the MCA, Montgomery Center for the Arts. And it's gonna be up starting May 10th, 11th, and 12th. And it's also gonna be up the following weekend, 17th, 18th, and 19th. And on Friday and Saturday, it's open from 10 until 4, and Sundays is open from 12 until 4. And so it's gonna be open on Mother's Day, so bring the mothers. So it's my little plug here. The first year and second year I was here, I did one in the fall. This year, time got away from me and I couldn't do it. So I've been saving a lot of artwork that we've done since almost the beginning of the school year. So it's gonna be packed in there, a lot of work. And I've been in there putting a lot of it up during break last week too. So, thank you. And Viola, did you want to talk about your project?
Yes.
Okay.
So we did a project on Faith Ringgold, and she does like a lot of books and picture books of quilts, and she puts like sayings in them. It's like a story quilt. And what we had to do was we had to make a picture of like something that's not every day. Like some people did upside down cities. I did a rose was like the galaxy, and we were supposed to put like good words around it. So I did like lucky, wonderful, kind, peace. And then she printed it out, and we put it on a like cloth.
This is like a fabric. I put it through my printer at home. It's a canvas that takes ink. And then go ahead.
And then we had these special fabrics with sticky, like shiny stuff on the back, and we ironed it on.
That's why these all stick in there.
And then we bobby pinned it, then we ironed it, and now we are going to sew it. We're gonna sew it, and we're learning how to sew, and then we're gonna stuff it with stuffing.
Yeah. A little story quilt from Faith Ringgold, who, when I just introduced them to Faith Ringgold, it was about a week later that it was on the news that she had just passed away. She was 93 years old. So actually I would have brought some of her books here, but they're all down at the MCA because I want to have them with the display. So they're down there. But thank you, Viola. And I think it's Melissa's turn now.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. We have 2 amazing pieces of equipment that we have been using in the library and resurrecting that we found. They were not being used. This is our Glow Forge. It can cut. It is a laser printer. Before the kids are able to actually use the printer itself, the laser cutter, they need to learn an application on the computer. So they are learning how to use Canva. So we've been working with Canva, and you can explain. Where did it go?
My hands.
Excellent. You can tell them what you did, what you created, and what we needed to do for the project.
So on Canva, we needed to make like a plaque that represents you. So first we had to write our name and 3 or more adjectives that describes us. So like I wrote Swifty, adventurous, smart, athletic, trustworthy, and a music lover. And then we put pictures that represents us. Like I put music notes because I love music, I love skiing, so I put goggles, and I love dogs and hearts. And I put all those there. And then we picked a shape, and we put it in there. And then the idea got lasered into the plaque.
Laurel, do you want to show yours too? The different, what it can cut. So this is the board that is placed in here. This does everything. It has, this is just wood that you can put in here. It can cut leather. It can do a multitude of things. We've just been using the wood to do identification plaques so everyone could learn something about somebody else that you did not know in the classroom. And Laurel chose a heart shape for the cutting part.
And I have my name and a few things that I love and that represent me.
Like what?
I did the flower because I love nature, and also this. and I did a quote. It's I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not, which is Kurt Cobain. And then I like music, so I put my favorite band, which is Green Day.
Love it. Green Day. Oh, good for you.
So this is the printer. Once it's all hooked up in Canva, the students then send it to me, and then I have the Glowforge on my laptop, and I can send it here, the laser. I tell it what to do as far as to cut it out. If they want to engrave it, it engraves, and then they get to take their creations home with them. So, Sandy has on her earrings that I made. I did not make the whole. She made the dangly part. I did not make that, but the actual logo is from the machine. Yes.
Oh, can I say one thing? Melissa and I have talked about including some of her students' work in the art show.
Yes.
Probably that's not gonna happen this year, but
We have a few of them.
we can put them in.
these.
We were hoping that for next year we'll have a lot more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. This is our other machine right here that we've been using. I've used it with the 4th grade and the 7th grade, mainly because the classes are back to back and it's easy to. So the idea with this one, this is the 3D printer. The filament is in here, different colors that you can use. It's threaded through the back. With this, you also need a computer application as well. So we taught the kids how to use Tinkercad with this, and I wish I could have it up here, but it has like a grid, so like an XY axis that the kids need to learn how to use, and they need to place these whatever they are choosing to create on the bottom, and then I had them make whistles. So you want to talk about your little whistle?
Yes. First, we had to make a whistle shape. She downloaded it, and we had to make it not solid, and we had to make it like a hole in our shape, and we chose a shape. So there was like a selection of shapes we could choose, and we put the hole that was shaped like a whistle inside, and you can blow through it and make a whistle sound.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Good other things over here. Do you want to show off?
Oh yeah, I mean these are other student projects. So someone created a whistle that's a little teddy bear. This one was like a little dino, but kids could do whatever they wanted. But the idea was that they had to have the whistle part hollow. They needed to place it directly, so there's like math involved, where they needed to place it on the XY axis, how they needed to place it, and then it starts to lay the filament down. These take about 20 minutes each to make. So next year, I'm hoping that now that we have these machines up and ready, we hope to collaborate and co-teach, and so the kids will make these, design them in here, with the Tinkercad, and then they will hopefully take their projects over to Melissa, and then they can paint them, and because the kids wanted different colors. Or our 3D printer prints in one color right now. But these can be painted as well.
The first year I was here, I tried to incorporate both machines into my room, and it was just overwhelming and overbearing, and because I'm used to using these kinds of machines from where I used to work, and I really was hoping to try to incorporate it into the art program, but Melissa wasn't here then either, and so it was hard for the librarian here at the time. She was taking some tech courses, but yeah, you're really just diving right in.
Well,
It's
I
awesome.
tried.
And honestly, having Robert Hickey has been
Robert
amazing.
has been amazing.
I never see him.
Yeah, he's
done
down here every
this
day.
without Robert. He got everything up and going and made himself go through a crash course in each one of these, and then taught me how to use them,
And then
basically.
the Sora platform on top of that.
Exactly, and now we have Sora too. So it's been wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Don't forget about the art show.
Oh, I do
I
have
already
little.
passed them around.
Okay. Just in case.
Gather up your work.
It's hard to see the times, they are on the
Thank
bottom.
you all so much.
You're
It was a
welcome.
really
Thanks for having us.
wonderful spotlight.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Fourth and fifth.
So
Yes, they're
we'll-
4th and 5th graders, I don't think we established that. Our presenters tonight probably should have.
Thank you. I'll take that back to my book then. You don't have to.
And
Thank you, parents.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
I'll take all these back to my rooms. You guys can get going too.
Okay, we'll give everyone a couple minutes to filter out here.
Watch the folder. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, bye. Alright, so sweet, okay. Moving on then, we'll go to the superintendent's report, Lynn.
Okay, that was fun to watch. I wish I'd been there in person to see those artifacts in real life, but it was fun to see that, and I really appreciate that those two teachers are working together to collaborate on projects, and that we can find those interdisciplinary opportunities to be able to, find those experiences for kids and for the teachers, because I think it matters to both of them. It's exciting, and I love the integration of the technology and how Robert that's an important reason why we have him doing the work that we're doing. So
It's been wonderful having him.
that's great. So I wanted to start by congratulating this board and these leaders on a passed budget on the NMV side. We're very happy about that. So good work, everyone.
Hoot, hoot.
I will jump in under the personnel section of the report. There's no slideshow today. I think I have up to date staffing report, and I'm not positive if there are any changes since it was sent to all of you. So I'm going to read through these. In Bakersfield, this is for hiring. Jeffrey Gilmet for middle school ELA and global citizenship. In Berkshire, Connor Torpy for Torpe, 0.4 FTE art. Lish Lalong Douglas in Montgomery for PE and health. Sheldon, Julie Capel, STEM teacher, and Ronald Hall, grade 5 teacher. So I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve those staff members for hire.
I'll make a motion.
Great, thanks, Kat. By roll, John,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Kat,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
Resignations on the NMV side, we have Lish Lalong Douglas was resigned from Bakersfield as the EL teacher, just approved him to be the same at Montgomery. Megan Petrie, middle school math and science teacher at Bakersfield. Kara Newman, middle school ELA and global citizenship. And Samantha Teacher, the school nurse at Berkshire. So I'd ask the board to make a motion about those resignations.
I'll make that motion. By roll, Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Kat,
Aye.
Mary's an aye.
We have several open positions, and principals would let me know if, I think these are up to date, but it was that hiring season, so it's possible some of these have gotten away from me. Open positions at Bakersfield, we still have a paraeducator, a pre-K paraeducator, a PE and health teacher, and a middle school math and science teacher. At Berkshire, we have paraeducator, middle school science teacher, assistant principal, half-time health teacher, school nurse, and an evening custodian. At Montgomery, we have an anticipated elementary classroom teacher and an evening custodian. At Sheldon, we have a technology support specialist, paraeducators, behavior technician paraeducator, grade 5 teacher, middle school math interventionist, and a library media specialist teacher.
And
So those are our, go ahead, Carrie Sue.
And a middle school literacy interventionist.
Okay, new today, I'm assuming.
No, that actually has been for a while.
Oh, I didn't think we had the formal letter.
Well, we have both
That's
formal
okay.
letters, but yeah, anyway.
Okay. So the next thing I was just going to go over, there's nothing under student this month. I was gonna go over a legislative update. There's been a lot going on in the legislature, as I'm sure that is no surprise to anyone. And Morgan knows that I have not had as much time to prepare for this, and he's offered to do the legislative update this month, so I'm going to turn it over to him, and we can tag team in some of these pieces.
Yeah, and Lisa's on as well, so she can jump in if there's anything big that we're missing between the two of us. The first is probably everyone's heard. Tuesday was the confirmation hearing in the full Senate for Zoe Saunders, the governor's nominee for secretary. I think in what was a surprise to nobody, the full Senate declined to support that nomination, and the governor immediately appointed her as interim secretary. So she is there at the head of the agency, and she immediately sent out a pretty lengthy message to the field laying out her plan for the first 100 days. So a lot of drama in the Senate, but no real change there, and we're expecting that she will be working to get out to the field in the next few months. H873 is the proposed pause to PCB testing. As far as I can tell, this is slated to die in Senate Education this week. It's not a direct impact on this side in NMV because all the schools that were going to be tested have been tested. There will potentially be an indirect impact because the pause was going to stop other schools from getting tested, and so presumably there will be more drawing down that limited pool of funds. And so as we know in Berkshire, for example, we're waiting for a new round of test results, and then we've got some work ahead of us in Sheldon, and there's no real clear path to any serious funding for that. H630 is what's called the BOCES bill. That was sent to appropriations in the Senate today. That seems to be moving, and what that does is it gives some more official ability for multiple SUs or SDs to come together and create a structure where they can offer a joint program. There seems to be some interest in the southern part of the state where they've been doing this. If we could roll back the clock a few years, it's something that we might have explored here in terms of setting up those alternative programs that Michelle Taberge has now going for our kids in Enosburg. That seems likely to pass. H871 was a bill around school construction. It will likely pass, but it seems to be mostly now just study committees, no real money attached to that or real plan going forward for construction aid for schools. There was a bill that was proposed to change the makeup of the State Board of Ed. That also appears to be dying in Senate Education. All of these things that are dying could get tacked on to another bill, but it seems unlikely that that's going to go anywhere. S167 is a miscellaneous education bill. It started in the Senate. There are a few things going on in this bill. One of them, which is germane to us, is that it makes changes to the bid law in a positive way. It would raise some of those thresholds where you have to do more restrictive bidding, and it may also give boards the ability to select from any of the 3 lowest bidders rather than the 1 lowest bidder in certain circumstances. Several of us testified on this in a House Ed this morning. There's similar language in that construction bill as well, so I take that to mean that they're planning on that passing in some form and they just don't know which vehicle it's going to get through. So those are all the little ones. The big bill that we need to care about is H887, or the yield bill. As of today, that's in Senate Finance, and several of us did some pretty extensive testimony on it last week or the week before. They're starting to run together now. It has changed dramatically from the initial bill as presented, I think mostly for the good. Kind of run through the provisions that are in it as of today. And then I was also in Senate Finance today talking about it and tell you where I think it's heading from there. So the current version includes a yield number of 98.46, which is a little bit lower than what we had used in our estimates with round two budgets. That number, I think, is still in flux, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. That has not changed in the last week. In order to bring that yield up and bring property taxes down, two new revenue sources were added. One was removing the cloud tax exemption, so there are some things, primarily software, that's exempt from sales tax right now. I think that was added maybe 5 years ago, and they're proposing removing that. There's also what's called an Airbnb surcharge, so it would be a 1 year, I think, 1.5% surcharge on Airbnb and Airbnb-like room rentals. There's also an increase of about 15% to the income sensitivity payments, and again, that payment is tied to factors from last year, and those payments are applied to tax bills this year. So there's concern on the part of some in the legislature that because tax bills overall have increased so much this year, they needed to bump up last year's income sensitivity payment. That's money that comes out of the ed fund, so if that passes, or if that's pulled out, then the yield in theory would go up and everyone's tax rates would go down. It creates two committees. One would be a commission on the future of public education, which would exist for 18 months, and it would be a very big picture look at a lot of the education issues that really only get looked at by the legislature the 5 months that they're in session. There are probably too many people on this commission right now to be functional, but that's one of the discussions going on in Senate Ed at the moment. There's also an Education Fund Advisory Committee. That committee would last 10 years. It's smaller in terms of numbers, it's a little smaller in terms of scope, and it's really, it would be to have a consistent set of eyes looking at all of the factors that make up the education fund. So how much we're paying in income sensitivity, what taxes are going in there, broadly what spending is happening at the school level. So I think that both of those are positive steps, or potentially positive steps. The original yield bill was looking to claw back some reserve funds that districts had in order to buy down taxes this year. That has changed to a recommendation that in the education quality standards, or the district quality standards, and I don't really know which one's which, but in some of the quality standards, they would actually give us some numbers in terms of what we should have in reserve funds. So it wouldn't be me going to the supervisory union board and going to you and saying, this is what I think we need to hold for the summer. They would actually come up with something that could be applied across the state. It creates a new AOE position, primarily centered around data analysis, probably needed there. It would take us back to the old ballot language from 2 years ago, where our ballots would now read, we're asking for permission to spend this number, this is X dollars per pupil, and this is a change of Y% from the prior year. So it's nothing that we really loved, but better than a lot of the language that had been floated in the first draft. They are proposing changing the CLA, and have I talked to this board about that? They would basically reduce the impact of the CLA by dropping the yield, and I'm happy to talk offline, folks who want to know the math. It would raise the same amount of money from each town, but it would look like the district level tax was responsible for more of it, and the CLA change was responsible for less of it. It's not going to raise any more money, and it's not something that anybody was particularly interested in fighting against. In the December 1 letter, the commissioner would now list the range of per pupil spending in the state, so that certainly is going to be to our benefit, but probably won't change anything overall.
Well, can you just clarify, like, why bother with this CLA piece? Like, why is this taking up legislative bandwidth if it's not like a more substantial fix and it's like a shell game, essentially?
So the initial draft included a lot of things that some are claiming to be cost containment measures, which really would just make it harder to pass budgets. And so that was not addressing the underlying costs, but possibly driving down budgets because we would be revoting like we are this year. This feels like that. It will be difficult in the first year because we've been telling people to focus on that district level tax rate, and it's been going down, and now we're probably going to see it bump back up for this change only. Once we get through that, it would mean that the CLA would have a little bit less of an impact. So to the extent we're doing that lag time where we have our first look at the budget and then we get the CLA numbers later, we'll have less of a change to the sticker shock then. The last.
I don't disagree with you, Miro, about the it feeling a little bit like it's not really containing costs, it's just moving that impact around. And one of the things I have to wonder is about districts like ours that are so close to that dollar floor. As they change how that CLA is applied, it will have an impact on our district tax rate. That'll be higher, so it gets us further away from the dollar floor. So I have to think that might be part of the thinking on that. I really honestly do not think there are many districts across the state who are in the same place that we are in terms of really being so close to the very bottom. But I do think that has an impact. And again, I want to reiterate what Morgan's saying. Cost containment in my mind is about saving money and not just saving it by getting budgets voted down.
There is a return to the excess spending provision with a few changes. This is something that we've never had to tune into because our spending has been in the basement for forever. But districts who are spending at the very top of the state a few years ago would be taxed at a higher rate for any spending over X dollars, and that is returning. So in theory, if that makes it through, it will mean that more revenue is being raised in those towns that are up at the $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 per kid range. Currently, there's an asset declaration, either requirement or study. I don't know where it's landed now. There's a sense in the House Ways and Means Committee that there are people with significant assets who are allowed to pay their taxes based on income. And so they're trying to get at somebody who has $10 million of stock and $10,000 a year in salary and prevent them from getting that income sensitivity benefit. I suspect that won't go anywhere. In the House, there were a bunch of amendments that were brought up on the floor. Some were just cleaning up language and they were accepted. There were some that just allowed members, and this is mostly people on the Ways and Means Committee, to go on record voting against those new taxes. I would argue that those are people who are voting to increase property taxes because the way the Ed Fund works is that we, the voters, decide how much we need to raise and the legislature decides how to raise it. So that money has to come from somewhere. There were also several amendments that were offered and withdrawn, and I can point you to them if you're interested. It was mostly people wanting to be on record bringing forward an idea, and it's sort of, I think, a preview of coming attractions of what's coming next in terms of some potentially pretty large changes to the way that we fund education. And so if folks are interested, email me and I can send you to the House record where those are listed. The Senate has taken that up this week. There seems to be a reluctance by some members to add that new revenue, but a desire to drop the tax rates. One member wants them to go down another 10 cents, and you can't do both of those, so we'll see where that ends up. There didn't seem to be a lot of love for that additional income sensitivity, so that may end up on the chopping block, and they were not liking the asset declaration piece. There's always been discussion around how we get a handle on the underlying costs of education, and the testimony that three of us gave today, I couldn't get a word in edgewise because I was on Zoom, was basically that the costs are that we employ a lot of adults, we run a lot of schools, and we do a lot of stuff that's not traditional education, and all of those things are not going to get solved in the next 7 days before they adjourn.
Morgan, was there, going back to the Ms. Saunders sending out her memo with her 100-day plan, has there been any, much of a reaction yet to that from the superintendents? What their perception was from what she has presented?
I have not heard anything. I don't know if Lynn has.
I don't think that we've had time to look at it as a group, to be honest, Kat. There were a lot of budgets that were voted on yesterday. It was a really large day in terms of education. I mean, there are some things in there that I'm certainly interested in exploring, and, we will be poised and ready to work with Secretary Saunders as she rolls that work out. So I'll keep you updated as we start to navigate forward with what that looks like.
Okay.
Thank you, Morgan, for doing the legislative update. He is definitely in his role as Vermont Association of Business Officials president this year. He has done a lot of legislative work and advocacy, and certainly super proud of Morgan and appreciate all the work he has done. He is someone that people are often reaching out to, including legislators, to see what his thoughts are on many of the issues that they're grappling with. So it's tough stuff, and he's been, a really, really great advocate for public education this year. So thank you, Morgan. I put a placeholder in our agenda. Oops. Someone just try to say something.
Nope.
I had a little feedback. Put a placeholder in the agenda for FY25 school budget discussion, and I'm really thankful that we don't have to talk about that tonight. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to Morgan for his section. I'm all set, Mary. Thank you.
Okay. On the vote though, how many budgets passed and how many didn't yesterday?
There were 11 revotes, and 4 of them passed, and there was 1 first vote, and that one passed. So 5 out of 12.
Morgan, I have a question from our town clerk too. She wants to know if we, the NMV board, pays for her workers yesterday and the cost of that.
For the extra cost we do.
Okay, so I let her know that.
Yep.
That is an interesting piece of all of this, Arlene, that there's so much irony in this, how many budgets are getting voted down in the state, and we're really examining the cost of public education, and it is expensive to have a revote.
Yeah.
Paying for the schools and the workers that are there and the money that goes into preparing for that. You multiply that by the number of budgets that are being revoted across the state over and over again in many cases. I would be interested in learning the amount of money that these revotes have cost us in the ed fund.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And it does seem like this might be a good place to just insert a thank you to the community as a whole across all 4 towns and everyone. I mean, I know I speak for everyone in saying how much we appreciate that people listened to our messaging and came out to informational meetings and talked to their family and their friends and their neighbors and came out in support of this. So just a huge thank you. We certainly can't do it without our voters that support us in the good work that we're doing for our families and for our learners especially. So anyway, just wanted to add that in. Lynn, you're all good? Okay.
So, you ready for me?
Yes.
I don't have much.
Okay.
I do not have a draft of the FY23 audit yet, but I will share that when I do. I don't have any update for this current year. That's just a placeholder. We don't have to do any more work at the moment on the FY25 budget, and I've started getting ready to work on FY26. I wanted to give you an update on the Berkshire boiler, and I don't think I have any action items for you tonight. One of their two boilers is not functioning. This is an old boiler that's at the end of its life. We were hoping to get another year out of it and switch it with, we're looking at a wood chip boiler similar to what we're doing in Richford, so that we're not the last school to put in something new that burns dinosaurs. I talked to Vern today, and we think we can buy some time by replacing some gaskets. It would be miraculous if we could get a new system in by heating season with what we're seeing in terms of lead times for equipment. So at some point I will probably start bringing you action items in terms of going out to bid for a full system. But for right now, we're gonna limp this one along, hopefully for another winter, and we may come to you in June and ask to spend that money out of the capital reserve fund. But I think right now we don't think it's going to be significant enough that we have to do that.
Okay. And I know that Vern secured some grants, right? Correct?
Secured from some grants for Richford's,
Richford,
and
yeah.
he's working on those for Berkshire as well.
Okay. But it's totally not functional, or it's just not
Nope,
optimally
There
functioning?
are two boilers that work in tandem.
Yeah.
One of them is not functional. We think replacing the gaskets on it will keep it functional in the heating season, but right now it's offline and we're just
Okay.
running on the one. If we knew we could get a new system up by September, we wouldn't touch it, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right, super.
Mary, I'm going to sign off now. I want to wish everyone a good night. I'm sorry that I can't
Thanks,
stay for the meeting.
No worries.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Thank you so much. So, I'm sorry, I was just still quite thinking about the boiler. What? So, what if we come to the fall and the heating season and the gasket repair hasn't worked? Can the building function with the one? Because then it would be a really tight time frame to try to get it installed before the winter heating season.
If that one holds up and we have a relatively gentle winter, confident it would hold up.
I know that I spoke with Vern today about the boiler.
Yeah.
And he did say that from his own personal experience, running a school on one boiler is it's a very dicey proposition, he said.
Right. Yeah.
I think we did it in
We did.
Bakersfield his first year and we got through.
We did. We made it.
It's not ideal, but he seems to think that the gasket replacement will be
Adequate.
adequate.
But he's starting to lay the foundation for a replacement,
Yep.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So, moving on to our principal reports. Rhoda, do you have anything that you would like to highlight, add to yours?
Yeah, I just was gonna mention that our Olympic day that we had was a great day. We do these mixed groups, so it's mixed ages, mixed grades, and just seeing the kids together, helping each other, going through these Olympic events. And with teachers involved in that as well. It was a lot of fun, we had a good time.
Great.
And then, the other thing I was just gonna highlight was this new job program. We've done jobs around the school for all the kids in the past, but this jobs program in particular, kids have to write a resume basically and have to talk about why they want the jobs. They do a little cover letter and we're interviewing them, and then they're going about doing the jobs that they're doing. They're doing a great job. A lot of different things around the school, and we had our first celebration of it today. So we did a lunch bunch. They had a lunch bunch with me, and Tammy, our cook, made cookies for them, and then they got a little certificate, and they got to choose what they wanted on the certificate. So it might be things like they get out of doing some IXLs, or they get an extra choice time, or something like that, and that's their payment for their job. So they're having a lot of fun with it, and it's been good to see.
Nice. Great, thank you. Gavin?
So this was definitely a fun month. Even as I was putting together these notes, I was like, "Wow, April! Once we get through that, once we get through the VCAP or VTCAP, things become a lot more fun." But we had the Vermont Institute of Natural Sciences visit us with an avian exhibit. In addition to that, we had Teen Week in October as well, right before break, and so that involved some water balloon fights, food fights, ice cream bars. I did, full disclosure, during the water balloon fight, decide I was going to do a crazy run through the middle waving my arms. And I emerged unscathed, except for one student who I think kind of cheated, because I got to the sidewalk and I was in the safe spot, but he had, instead of throwing the water balloon, he untied the water balloon and just sprayed me directly on my tie as well. So, other than that, then of course student-centered learning. We also had our second round of student-led conferences, and this time around especially, it was wonderful to see students be able to go deeper and deeper into the learning that they've had. Tomorrow we're going to have our Green Up Vermont Day, where students will be picking up trash along the community, and also on our campus. And then of course this May 3rd we're going to have our middle school dance as well. So I suspect lots more festive pictures as well in the near future, especially as we're winding down the year, and a lot of times to really celebrate the work that the students have done this year.
Great, thanks so much, Gavin. Sandy?
I would just like to add that I was pretty excited to hear that I had some little money left over with a consolidated federal program grant, and I put in a request and just heard that it was approved. So I'm getting some really cool things like this ultimate STEM STEAM activity cart that can serve over 100 students, it says, with a ton of activities, 40 plus STEM projects is what it says. And I also got a podcasting lab kit that's pretty amazing, and an interactive corridor panel for the pre-K kindergarten first grade wing that's about 8 feet long and 3 feet high, and they can go out and interact with the panel and do all kinds of things for a little SEL time. And a really neat Prisms Math virtual reality, and if anyone tried it out at the last in-service when we were in the gym at Enosburg, and you know, you put the virtual reality thing on, and I had our middle school math teacher was practicing with it, and all I could see him was doing this and doing this and doing this. It was just really fun to watch, but all of those things got approved, and we're doing procurement right now, and we're going to order them within the next few days, weeks, something like that. So that was a highlight. It was a lot of good stuff. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Sandy. Terry Sue?
Well, I have two things to add to what I put in the notes, because they just happened, one today and one in the past week. It's a growth year for Sheldon. That's what's been my theme all year. And so one of the things that just happened, I can pass this around, is Vermont PBIS recognized Sheldon as a spotlight school for all the growth we've done with our PBIS systems. We grew like 80-some% based on last year's survey, 72% growth on certain things. So anyway, so we're on their main spotlight page now, Sheldon is. So that was something that we're really proud of and been celebrating. Pass that around to see. Or you can go to the website and see it. So Sheldon's pretty proud of that right now. And then today, our third graders took their Math Star assessment. They decided they wanted to be the guinea pigs to do it first this time around. So all the third graders took their Math Star, and a majority of them tested in 4th and 5th grade levels for math, which is huge growth from the beginning of the year. So they're really proud. I think every single one of them actually made progress and growth. So that was pretty exciting to see. in the third grade group right now, so we're really excited to see what happens in the rest of the building, but we're getting prepared for our academic celebration, and like we had one in the winter with the popcorn. We're not doing that again. We're gonna do freezy pops this time, but we're really excited to see how much the rest of the building did. Third graders, I mean, we had a majority of them in 4th and 5th grade level instead of that 3.8, which is where they should have been testing, so
Nice.
I was very excited to see that growth.
Yeah, that's excellent. Great. Thank you all. So moving on to board business, I had a couple, well, anyone have any more agenda items that they'd like to make a note of now? There's always plenty of time. Our next meeting will be on June 5th at Sheldon. And I have had just a couple of shout outs that I wanted to do. I wanted to thank Courtney for her heavy lift on staff and teacher appreciation. She did a great job with the messaging and getting the polls and surveys out to everyone. So I just wanted to thank you for helping Erin and me kind of get that over the finish line.
I do have a small update on that. The surveys have all been closed, so what I'm doing now is I'm going through several different staffing lists, and I'm going through my survey. And today I added everybody who did not fill out the survey. So right now I'm just assigning them a gift card. And it takes a while. This part takes a little bit of time, so I'm gonna try to get them out next week, but it's been a little busy in my world.
Just a little.
Just a little. So I think tomorrow I will be able to make sure I have all staff in the building, in every school, and then I can give you the numbers of gift cards. But yeah, I mean, I sent out a final plea. What's today?
I think it was Monday.
It was Monday. I sent out a final, like, this is your last chance. And when I looked at it yesterday, when I closed the survey, we had around 430 in the whole district. So that's the whole supervisory union. I mean, so I'm not having to put too many people in. It's just going through and making sure I'm not forgetting anybody is the tricky part.
Great.
Well, if we can help, like if you want to give me my list, I'll help.
I have it. I asked Human Resources to help me, so they give me their payroll list. So I'm just going through a couple of different ones. Like Morgan, he's not on my survey. And I forgot I'm the first one.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know that is a real heavy lift on top of all the other things you're tackling right now. And you know, my other shout out, budget related, was just to say thanks to Morgan and Lynn for the you know, and I know Courtney, you had a huge role in that too, with the how many meetings to 13
13 informational meetings.
It's been a lot, and I know I speak for everyone saying we're really grateful. That was a good collaborative team effort, and I'm really just pleased that we have a passed budget, and looking forward to hopefully the same coming to pass for Enosburg Richford. We're working hard on that, I'm sure. So thank you all. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we wrap up?
I'd just like to say on the voting piece that I was really proud when I bumped into a former student who's a senior at Enosburg, and she's 18. And I said, "Did you exercise your voting right today?" And she proudly smiled and said, "Yes, I did. I voted for the first time in my life."
Oh,
and she voted for our budget. I didn't ask her if she voted yes or no. I'm just assuming that she did. I was very proud of her.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice
really
to see
nice.
those first-time voters. Excellent. All right, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone in the virtual world good with adjournment?
Aye.
All right, thank you all so much. Take care.